Hey Waffle gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories. If you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account, and the first part of the story is one that we've covered in the past, so if you want to skip straight to the update, timestamps are down in the description below, and just to give you a warning as well, it does have a mention of a car accident as well. So the title is My Sister 20 Animated / Deepfaked a photo of our late grandfather, thinking our mum 50 would love it. Instead, it made our mum super upset and now they aren't speaking to each other. Backstory. My mum's father died in a car accident when she was 16, so my sister and I never met him. My mum was an only child and a total daddy's girl, so she always made sure to tell us stories about him and keep him alive in our hearts. She only really had one good photo of him though, showing a serious, handsome man of about 40, and that photo has had a special place in our living room all of our lives. What happened? My mum's 50th birthday was last week, and we had a small gathering at home to celebrate. All week long, my sister said she found the perfect present for mum, but said it was a surprise for me too and wouldn't tell me what it was. The party starts and we're all having a good time. Right before we're about to cut the cake, my sister says there's one more special guest about to arrive. She queues up her computer, turns on the TV, and there on the screen is a picture of my grandfather, but it's moving, blinking and smiling. She used one of those programs, I don't know what they're called, but you may have seen them with like talking Abraham Lincoln and singing celebrities, to add motion to the photo. The video was only about 15 seconds long and the editing wasn't perfect. But to see this photo I had seen all my life move and actually smile was very cool for me. However, my mum's demeanor instantly changed and I could tell by her reaction that she was upset. She held it together in the moment and politely thanked my sister for the video, but very shortly afterwards she said she wasn't feeling well, left the party and spent the rest of the evening alone in her room. I went to check up on her, but she said she wanted to be left alone and for me to entertain the guests. Without the guest of honor, the party fizzled out shortly afterwards. My sister, for her part, was stunned by the reaction and also spent the rest of the night in a very noticeable sulk. That was Sunday. It's now Thursday, and neither of them ever really spoke to each other since. My sister thinks mum overreacted and embarrassed her, and she's hurt that what was supposed to be a nice gesture totally backfired. I finally was able to talk to mum a little bit about it yesterday, and the feeling is that it was distasteful. But she didn't really elaborate beyond that, and I didn't want to push. I feel conflicted because I see both viewpoints. How my sister thought my mum would like it, and how my mum thought it was creepy to see her dad alive again. But I'm not sure how to bridge the gap or get the two of them to reconcile the matter. The three of us are very close and have a great relationship, so it's hard to see them both so upset and distant. Is this just a time heals all wounds thing, and should I wait it out, get them to sit down and talk to each other? My feeling is that mum wants my sister to apologize, but my sister doesn't think she did anything wrong. Thank you for reading and for any advice. This came out longer than planned, but I guess I just needed to share my feelings with someone. And we do have an update to this story like I said, and I have my own story very similar to this one, which I'll cover after the update of this one because I don't want to try to overshadow this or anything. But I kind of think from looking in on this, I don't think the sister was trying to be malicious or hurt the mum in any way, and it was just something that wasn't thought out very well. Because I think there's always going to be two sides to this. Some people that think it's a very cool thing. I've seen videos of people like absolutely blown away and absolutely love it. Whereas I've seen other people, pretty shocked by it and it can bring up memories and pain, seeing someone who's passed away moving like that, it's a bit unsettling sometimes. For me, myself, I'm someone who doesn't really like to see those photo manipulations where they move people that's passed away. I'm not sure why, it's not something for me, but I know there's a lot of people that like it and I've got nothing against that at the same time. And as I said, I'll explain my experience after this story. I don't think this should be something that should break up the family or damage the family either. I think a simple explanation is like, I thought you might like it, mum. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you, that kind of thing. would solve things and hopefully bring them back together, because I don't think this should be something that really damages. As I said, I don't think she was being malicious about it. I just think it wasn't thought through very well. But DCFD says, so I have a unique perspective on this. My mum died when I was 23. I have my own children now that she never got to meet. We talk about her a lot and they're too young to share stories with, but they know her. I don't have any videos of her because it was right before cell phone videos became easily accessible, and I lost all my voicemails from her when I switched carriers. One time I did the photo animation myself. It was a lot. To see a face I hadn't seen moving, smiling, laughing in many years was unsettling. I cried and cried because it only made the pain worse. I will never see her do those things again, and as lifelike as that photo was, it wasn't her. When her face first started moving, it was like an electric shock of pain and sadness. Your sister did nothing malicious, and honestly, she doesn't need to apologize beyond maybe, I'm sorry that I didn't realize this would hurt you. I thought you'd be so happy to see him again. In a way, sister and I never have. But also keep in mind, this is a deep, deep wound from your mum, one that may never heal. She's not ungrateful, just experiencing a pain you might not understand. Wife of Tech says, I'd encourage sister to apologize and explain her thought process on giving such a gift. Really expand upon how she wishes she had got to actually see grandfather. I'd encourage mum to open up about what she is feeling and talk. Explain to her that all shutting down and silent treatments will get her our burned bridges. But do expect there to be an outburst and lashing out, as that is what typically happens when repressed emotions are let out. Disguised Hash Brown says, I think part of the creepy factor comes from the uncanny valley. If the picture is smiling and moving in ways that your mum finds conflicting with her memory of him, it's going to make her uncomfortable. She might even question her memory and ask, did he actually smile like that, or did I forget and fill in the blanks? Your sister never met the man and has no idea if the animation was actually a good likeness or not, so there was no way to check if there were problems until she gave the gift. Asinui says, your sister had good intent. Your mum did not like the gift, which is understandable. Giving this kind of gift can be spot on, or it can completely backfire. You're taking a huge risk when giving it. You can do something nice and still hurt a person. My mum used to make socks for the whole family. My sister used hers the most and loved them. When she died, it left a huge hole in our family. For Christmas, I decided to make a pair of socks and give them to my sister. When Santa, aka our brother, gave her the gift, he told her that I had gotten lost in the sorting room and that she was supposed to receive it years ago. On the gift, I had written, Merry Christmas, love Mum. My sister cried like a baby. She loved the gesture. However, if it had backfired and made her upset, I would have apologized. I would have explained my thinking that I wanted our mum to be part of our Christmas and that it was all in good intent. But seeing how upset it made her, I would apologize and tell her I was sorry. Grief is different for everyone. For some, like my sister, these kind of gifts are perfect. For your mum, it is not. Your sister needs to apologize. She may not have meant to give offense, but she upset her mum and she has to apologize. I'm sure your mum understands that the gift was meant to be a nice one and that her daughter is not trying to hurt her. But sometimes we hurt people with kindness. It's a weird kind of hurt, but it is a hurt nonetheless. And on this post, there is some absolutely fantastic comments on how people deal with grief, and they're so individual on how they deal with grief. And it's like when we always say when we cover these posts is that, you deal with grief in your own way, as long as it's healthy and you're looking after yourself at the same time. You deal with it in your own way, because we're all unique and we all deal with our emotions in different ways. So I just found the comments in this one fantastic. But now we're going to go on to OP's update to find out what happened next. So OP says, I return with a happy update. But first, wanted to thank everyone who contributed for their comments and suggestions, particularly those who replied with grace and compassion. I found it helpful to get impartial outsiders' view of the matter, and I read each and every comment. I hope to address a few recurring themes I noticed and update with what happened yesterday. 1. Some comments have asked if my sister was filming or making her own video, and she was not. She's no content creator, but certainly a content consumer. I genuinely believe she was doing it from a place of caring and thought in her heart of hearts that Mum would really appreciate it. However, many suggested she was definitely inspired by all the viral videos that showed people absolutely loving these kind of videos, and in particular, the hologram video Kim Kardashian got her father for her birthday. She thought she was doing something to make my mum really happy, and the fact that it instead made her really sad was very jarring. 2. Some comments came down hard on my mum for the silent treatment or punishing my sister. I apologize for giving that impression. It's more like two usually chatting, vibrant people who had been walking on eggshells around each other, likely out of a combo of awkwardness, pride, and shame. If you've never seen the episode of The Simpsons where Bart shoplifts and Marge's is a much more muted version of her normal self, good night instead of good night and sweet dreams, my special little guy, it was exactly like that. It was hard to read the comments calling my mum manipulative or immature or an ice witch, or my sister a selfish, soulless psychopath, since they are two of the world's sweetest people. 3. Some comments suggested that maybe my mum's reaction might imply something more sinister about her relationship with her dad, hidden trauma, or that I don't know the whole truth about my grandfather. While I never met the man and, of course, only have a filtered perception of him, there's never been any indication from my mum or other family members or friends that he was anything other than a good guy and loving dad who died very suddenly and, importantly for this discussion, very young. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but my grandfather was 49 when he died, just a few weeks shy of his own 50th birthday. In addition to the general, oh god, what have I done with my life angst that came with this milestone, this was also the birthday where mum outlived him. I have to admit, I was embarrassed I didn't think about that until she herself brought it up. Anyway, yesterday morning my sister approached me and asked if I had any suggestions about talking to mum. We talked about how, hindsight being 2020, she realised what a bad idea it was, and not just because of the reaction. She said something like, I wanted to create a new memory, without thinking about how they might mess with the old one, and how a surprise like that in front of others was basically demanding a reaction one way or the other. Another relative at the party also piled on her about how it looked nothing like him, so she felt like she was getting shat on from all sides. She wasn't sure if I was mad too, and was hoping I'd go with her to talk to mum so she'd at least have one person on her side. I said yes, and using some of the language and suggestions I got here, I encouraged her to apologise, without trying to justify or blame, and see where that led. My sister approached mum on her own and asked if she'd be able to talk about what happened Sunday, if it was okay if I came too, and mum said absolutely. There was a long period of silence, but before my sister could start talking, my mum said something like, let me explain why I've been feeling a certain way. Mum then explained how much anxiety she had around this birthday in general, of which we had no idea. She organised the party and thought being around friends and family would make her feel better. But she still had this general angst she couldn't quite put her finger on. And then the video, a very visible and literally moving reminder of everything she was trying to keep to herself. Apparently, everything was kind of okay up until the part the video smiled. The last time I saw him smile was in my dreams, she said, and it brought up all the feelings she was bottling up. Milestones missed, life unlived, stories unshared, and now someone forever young at 49 as she gets older and older. She's been trying not to think about him at all that day, and then bam. She said she felt simultaneously 16 and 50 at the same time. It was too much to handle at the moment. She needed more time than she realized to process the feelings and didn't want to burden us with what she called her midlife morality crisis. My sister then burst into tears and apologized and said she'd been spending all week ashamed of herself for planning one of these gifts for someone else that's really for you kind of things. I'm summarizing and omitting a lot, and this was a conversation that lasted hours and hours. I think we all now understand what the other was feeling and trying to do was only out of love, but also that the unintended fallout caused hurt emotions all around that needed to be dealt with, which we are now trying to do. Thank you again for taking the time to participate and help me sort out some of my own complex emotions. As is often the case, a little time to process and a lot of honest communication was the key. I think we are definitely all in a much better place than we were when I posted, and I hope we all continue to learn from this. Maybe not look to the Kardashians for gift advice. Absolutely. And I do remember the app that was being used at the time, which uses AI to animate the photos. And I just found the whole thing very weird in itself, the way the photo moves. It reminds, the only thing I can think of is like in Harry Potter when the newspapers and they have the photos on them and they move. It reminds me very much of that. And it never sat quite right with me. And as I said before, I'm not criticizing anyone for using it. If it's your thing and, it brings you some sort of comfort, then I think absolutely fantastic for you. But again, like we've discovered in this story, I think it's a very, very personal thing on how an individual is going to react to that. Most people might react absolutely and love it to bits, but there's going to be some, and I'm probably one of these people that's included, that's going to jar me a bit. I probably wouldn't leave the room or anything like that, but it's just something that wouldn't interest me at all, really. If someone gave me the choice to see it or not, I'd probably say, no, thank you. It's just not something for me. Yeah, I'll go on to what I was talking about at the start. As always, timestamps are in the description, so feel free to skip this part of the story because I might waffle on, as usual. But many of you may already know, and if you don't, my dad passed away over a year back now. He had mesothelioma, which was suddenly onset after we lost my mum, and it was very all traumatic. And, he was given 9 months to live. Bang on 9 months, he passed away afterwards. Absolute awful time in my life watching this man who was my dad deteriorate like that. But after we passed away, we committed to meeting up because I got 3 other brothers, and we committed to meeting up as family a lot more and getting to know. Some of the family lives quite far away, so it's not always that easy, but we did try to meet up the best that we could. But one of the family members turned up at one of the family events and they gave out some gifts to each of the brothers, which we opened up, and it turned out to be a photo of my mum and dad together. It was clearly photoshopped, 2 different photos put together with mum and dad. I was grateful that someone thought about this and, tried to make me happy. Again, the intent wasn't malicious in any way. They was just trying to give us a memory of them and show love and support to us. And a couple of my brothers really liked the photo, but when I opened it, I felt uneasy. Instantly, when I looked at it, I could see there was some stuff that was off. And, I'm not going to go into too much details, but my dad didn't have the best teeth, but this photo had perfect teeth. They'd taken someone else's mouth and photoshopped it over his, which is a very simple process with Photoshop these days with a heel brush and various things like that. And there was various other things that they did to this photo which changed it as well, which wasn't my dad. So it almost felt like, and which I could see it was my dad, but it almost felt like I was looking at a stranger at the same time. So it gave me very, very mixed feelings. I didn't say anything about it. I just said thank you and then, put the photo away. And to be honest, I didn't feel cross or anything like that other family member. As I said, it wasn't malicious. They were just trying to make me feel better. But looking at the photo, I could see it wasn't my dad. And I felt more cross that someone had taken someone else's mouth and then, photoshopped it on top of someone else. But, that's neither here or there. It just didn't feel quite right. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? And how would you feel about it receiving a gift like this? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, love to hear them. And I'm going to give you one more story. I'm going to cover a little something from I Don't Work Here Lady, because I like that because I've read it once in a while. Rainy State Guy says, I don't work there, but someone noticed I gave another shopper a hand. A couple of days ago, I was working for bargains at our local grocery outlet, a US chain which specializes in procuring overstock items, factory seconds, and closeout items from name brands and private label suppliers. I love shopping there, as one never knows what might be available on any given day, and the prices are usually much lower than what the items originally sold for. My concentration was broken though when I heard a thud and the sound of falling merchandise at the end of the aisle I was shopping in. I looked up to see a woman about the same age as me, male 76, who accidentally clipped a display filled with bags of marshmallows with her cart, knocking that cardboard display over and scattering the bags down the aisle. Seeing the shocked look on the woman's face, I said, "Here, let me help you with that." I stood the display back up and she and I corralled all the escape bags of puffy goodness and stacked them back up like they had been. It only took a couple of minutes. When we were done, we exchanged "have a good day," smiled at each other, and went on our respective ways. I didn't think any more of it. I finished shopping and found myself standing at the back of one of the long, busy checkout lines behind several other shoppers with full carts. Suddenly, a clerk appeared at my elbow and indicated that I should bring my cart and follow her over to one of the closed registers, where she monitored me unload my cart. Cool, I thought, they're opening up another register. So I went to grab the "this lane is closed" sign to hand to her, but she said, "No, just leave that there." It was then that the light bulb came on in my brain. They were temporarily opening up a register just for me. This VIP treatment had to be the store's way of thanking me for helping that lady. That was just so cool. It still puts a smile on this old face. And I like this story. I think it's always nice, when people go out of their way, just take a couple of minutes to help someone else out, lifting that display up, putting those bags back. I think is a wonderful thing to do. And then to be, unexpectedly, you never done it for a reward, but you got this little reward out of it, which, opening the till up, it's not a massive thing, but it made a huge difference to you and your life and something that you still remember. And I think that is equally as wonderful. I wonder if the person who was running that register realizes the difference it made to your life as well. I think that's fantastic. But what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me. And sharing your own little personal stories when you do is just equally fantastic. I've had some real wonderful messages just recently. And whilst I won't say them on here because they're very private stories, and a lot of the times they always start, they are strangers, we're strangers, and you probably won't worry about this or whatever. But we're still two people going through our lives and trying to deal with it in the best way we can. And I love to hear your stories and just generally have a chat with you guys. I think I'm in a very, very lucky position to be able to do that. So thank you so much. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.